Hard work alone will never make you rich. Yes, I repeat, hard work alone will never make you rich. That's the reality. Today I've decided to burst that bubble that you've been having out there. Let me tell you one secret. Before I even write anything on my board, let me just have a very simple question. Have you ever seen some people who usually work very hard in their lives? They really try and strain as much as they can. You really try, but things doesn't add up. And by the way, have you ever realized one thing? Those people who usually work very hard in the society, they get paid less. Let me just give you a very simple example. Where you are employed, okay? Let's say maybe you work in an accountant office, or maybe you work in a school. Let's say you are a teacher, all right? And again, I said we're going to be using teachers as an example. So in that school setup, there is you who is a teacher. There is somebody who is they call them matron, patron, or whatever the case. There are people who usually cook. There are people who are called the watchmen or soldiers or however you're going to call them, all right? Now, ask me a very simple question. Why are the others get paid less compared to others? And by the way, let's take an example of somebody who cooks compared to you. You teach. If, by the way, we were to equate based on the effort that you apply in that job, then that cook ought to be paid a lot of money compared to you. Why are you as a teacher being paid a lot of money? Why are you as an accountant being paid a lot of money compared to that janitor who sweeps and cleans the places? Why? Now, that's the question. That's the question about life. No, people are never paid based on what they do. People are paid based on the perceived value, the value that you bring on board. All right. For example, a teacher is perceived to be more valuable in that institution compared to a cook. Why? Because it's very hard to replace you, but a cook can actually be replaced any moment. For example, if today you have a company and you employed a sweeper, somebody who cleans and wipes the things and what have you, see, that guy cannot actually hold you hostage. Why? You can just fire them and employ the other one the next minute. Why? Because they have less valuable skills. So the reason why you find most of the people tend to apply a lot of effort. For example, let's take an example of a construction industry. We have the mason, and then we have somebody who actually like an assistant. Okay, the mason says, hey, hand me over this, hand me over that, hand me over this, and hand me over that. For example, let's go to a surgery room. There is a doctor who is doing the actual operation, and then there is these guys who hand over the tools. They bring this here, bring those. For those who are in hospital industry, you can understand what I'm talking about. The doctor tend to be paid a lot. Why? It is very hard to replace a doctor. You can just wake up in the morning and say, hey, doctor, you're fired. You just go where. It is hard to replace the values, that quality of things that he or she is bringing on. But the same case applies when it comes to real life. So when you just work hard purely, you hard work only, purely, nothing else, guess what happens? Does not equate to you making a lot of money. You also need to ask yourself, apart from me working hard, what else can I do so that at least I can be able to earn something at the end of the day? Now, let's talk about the practical things that you can be able to do if you only work hard and then you realize you're not progressing in life. This is what I always tell people, all right? So if you're working hard, say, and maybe you're earning around, let's say, 1,000 a day. Let's say you earn 1,000 a day, or maybe 1,500 in a day, or maybe you even earn 500 per day. It all depends on where you are working hard towards. One thing that you're supposed to do or understand is that just because you are doing a lot does not mean you're getting a lot more done. I repeat the question. I repeat the point. Just because you are doing a lot does not mean you're getting a lot more done. So if this is amount of money that you earn, this is what you are paid based on your perceived value. If today you call me, you need my financial guidance services, I tell you I charge 5,000 per hour. All right? It is based on the perceived value. If you call somebody, tells, hey, for example, if you were to call Vusi Tembekwayo, that's a great, person from South Africa. I love the guy. If you call him and you would like to get the personal financial guidance and what have you, definitely the guy will tell you, hey, maybe I charge like 10,000 rands per hour. You're like, what? That's a lot of money. Yeah, based on the perceived value. Anyway, the point is this. This is what you get paid per day on a hard work basis when you apply the effort, okay? Now, the question is this. You will never remain actively engaged throughout your life. So what exactly do you do? This is where you actually say, hey, if I get paid 1,000 per day, I'm going to try my best as I can to make sure that at least I eat or I survive on 700 Kenyan shillings per day. Then that means that you actually left with 300 per day. Now, once you're left with this 300 per day, now what do you do? For example, let's say maybe you work in construction industry, or maybe let's say you are a janitor somewhere, or maybe let's say you are working in a school where you actually cook for students. So meaning that as far as the cooking is concerned, you actually know or two things. Now, guess what? Now, this is where we say, hey, for example, if you can be able to save aside 300 Kenyan shillings, you can decide to take this amount of money, channel it towards a what? An investment. You can channel it towards an investment. Yeah, I understand it won't make you like a lot of money in a day, but the point is this: there is somewhere you have channeled your money that is actually bringing another cash. We usually call it the baby money. All right. See, investments brings back what we call the baby money, aka passive income. Okay, it's called passive income. Now it brings back to you. So there is this constant 1,000 Kenyan shillings that you earn. An investment that you channel this amount of money brings back, even if it's bringing you back like 20 shillings a day, or maybe let's say it bringing you like even 10 shillings a day out of the 300. Guess what now happens? You're actually gonna have more than what you were earning previously. So the thing is, you have to think on that amount of money that you get and try. For example, I had a certain guy who was doing I don't know what guys you can call them from your country. It's quite a rough example. This guy usually have like a cart. They pull carts and they sell. They are employed. It's like you sort of contract them to carry your thing from one place to the other, maybe in big towns and whatever. If you come from Africa, you can relate to what I'm talking about. So this guy actually did this. You get paid this amount of money. And that cart is not yours. You've actually rented that cart. That cart you're actually paying 150 shillings a day. 150 shillings a day. You get that cart, and then you have that cart, you're walking around, and then maybe you're carrying some heavy loads and what have you. You take from one place to the other. Maybe per load, the guy is charging, let's say, maybe 50 or whatever the amount of money, all right? And maybe you are being charged 150 shillings to actually have that cart. So if this guy is actually managed to actually raise, say, 1,000 shillings a day, then it means this guy can actually set aside this amount of money each and every day to a point where, let's say, maybe that cart costs maybe around, say, 6,000 to come up with that cart. To own a cart by yourself. Therefore, you can actually channel this amount of money in a period of a certain time. So if it's 6,000 divided by 300, guess what happens? You actually have yourself what? 20. So you need how many? You need like 20 days. Let's be logical. Maybe 20 days you may not be able to manage to do that. Let's say maybe you give yourself like 3 months, because you never know. Days are not the same each and every month. So if you can have yourself 6 months, then you have yourself a whole cart. Then what can you actually do? You can actually go buy yourself a cart, and then once you have the cart, then you do away with the 150 shillings that usually rent from the owner of that given cart. All right. So once you do exactly that, guess what happens? This 150 shillings you can channel towards the 300 that you are saving. Guess now how much you're saving? You're saving 450 shillings. So if it took you 3 months to actually get a new cart, and by the way, again, I'm using this cart as an example. Don't be like, hey, are you saying now we should all buy carts? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is type of the things that you actually do to get yourself out of the financial conundrum. Now, if you took you 3 months to actually come up with the whole cart, definitely it took you less than this. Now you can buy another cart and actually lease it out. You can buy another cart and lease it out there. Guess what? How much you'll be getting out of the cart? Now this is passive income. You don't have to do nothing. You get an extra 150 Kenyan shillings. You're doing nothing about it. Now this is passive income. And let me tell you a secret. If there is something that is sweet as far as the money is concerned, it is this one. All right. Now you get this 150 Kenyan shillings plus the 450 that you're having. Guess now how much you're having? You're having 600 per day. Now, this 600 per day, guess what happens with this 600 per day? You only need like 10 days to actually get the 6,000 to acquire another cart. So definitely that may not work. Maybe you need like a month to do so. You have another cart. See, by the time you realize you're actually doing some great things as far as your life is concerned. Maybe say you are a cook. You can decide to accumulate this amount of money. You can start a certain restaurant somewhere. Back then when I used to be in school, we used to have some guys who were allowed by the school from the canteen. They can buy some snacks and actually, put them in a canteen and students can buy. You're earning yourself some extra income as you progress. So the same case applies. The same analogy applies. Whichever the thing that you can do that is applicable to you, that is what you do. If you rely purely on hard work, guess what happens? You'll actually be looking forward into having what we call the raise. You'll be waiting for the government to talk about, the minimum wage. You'll be waiting. So you have to think from the industry that you are in. For example, say if you are a doctor, you can think about not consuming all the money that you get paid at the end of the month. Let's say you work at wee hours, you can actually save a certain amount of money. Or like, for example, I have a friend of mine who happens to be, I don't know whether he's a doctor or whatever. So the guy actually partnered with a certain guy, okay? They partner, guys, forgive me, I have a very bad cold, So they partnered with a certain guy and they bought a machine. I think it was endoscopy or colonoscopy. I don't know, those big names, yeah? And then they actually took that machine to a certain place. So when they get the client, they can actually send them there and they're making something out of it. So apart from that, what you're earning from the active income, you can create another income that is actually bringing you some money, and that's how you progress yourself and move to the next level. So if you rely basically on the hard work alone, on the basis of, hey, guess what? Hey, I'm gonna do this. Hey, this is what I'm going. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. All right? It doesn't work that way. So the point is this, guys, make sure that at all the time and any time you actually incorporate that what we call being smart out there. And this is the point that I'm going to leave you with. And I've ever explained this with you before, okay? And at all the times, success, whatever it comes to success, okay? Maybe you've ever heard of me talking about this. Just bear with me. I'll repeat this thing a million times until it sinks. See, when you talk about success or achieving something, let's say you want to talk about success, okay? If you want to achieve something as far as the success is concerned, it's usually an intersection between two things. This intersection here, this is the hard work, okay? And this is what we call luck, okay? These are two things when they intercede. That intersection between the two things, that's where we call it the success, okay? And how exactly, among the two things for them to intercede, what exactly can you be able to control? You cannot be able to control luck. You can't. And people try to control luck by doing what? By gambling. You know, you try to gamble and all those kind of things, and then maybe sometimes education, you might say, hey, see, if I go back to school and maybe I get another degree on top of what I have, I stand high chances of maybe having a raise in my rank in terms of the salary. And people bank on many things just to sort of twist the luck so that at least they can be able to bring the hard work, because almost everyone can actually control the hard work. And if you can actually lack luck and actually lack hard work at the same time, woo, you're doomed to fail. Why? See, if let's say maybe you are lazy. Let's say maybe you are lazy. Lazy is a substitute of a hard work. So if you are lazy, and then obviously you do not have a control of your luck, guess what happens? Now you start blaming everyone and anyone who is out there, stretching all the way from your family members, that is your parents, all the way to the government, to where you come from, to your race, to your whatever. You see, now that's the problem. So if you can actually have the hard work, you know, have the hard work with you, the luck aspect, you cannot be able to control it. The only thing that you do as far as the hard work or luck is concerned is you place yourself to a situation whereby you have the chances of actually meeting the luck. And I love giving a very weird example. For example, let's take two ladies, yeah, who come from an interior part of any given country, and then they get the opportunity maybe to go to school. And one lady, after the, say, like the Form 4, that is after the high school, one lady decides, or maybe before the high school ends, the lady decides, or maybe it happens that they get pregnant, so they go back to the same place where she came from. That is the interior side of the country. And then what happens? The other lady actually managed to go ahead and go back to, managed to go to university, let's say in a big town, in a big cities, okay? Now, what happens is that the two ladies, they have two different chances. The one who did drop out from the school because of the pregnancy, they went back to the up country. Most likely the person who were having affairs with is a guy who probably also dropped out. So that lady, once she goes back to the community, she's gonna attract the guy who also belongs to that community, in that specific place in the interior side of the country. Then what happens? Both of them do not have an exposure. If they do not have an exposure, they rely on what their parents did or are doing. For example, if it is about farming, with all the due respect to farming, I'm not saying that you cannot make it in the farming, but if you can be able to do it in agriculture, what do you call it, agribusiness way, okay? So they end up doing the normal thing, they get assimilated to the community, and that's how they progress. The other one gets to, let's give an example of a big cities like Nairobi, whatever, Johannesburg, or whatever the place, okay? Then this lady, once you go to the university, she meets all different calibers of people who are either as smart as she is, or maybe smart more than they are, or she is. Then what happens is that most likely the person she gonna attract for, say, live with her in terms of her life, is somebody who is either a teacher, an engineer, a lawyer, or somebody, or if somebody does not have all those qualifications, at least they are expounded in terms of their thinking. So probably, by the way, have you ever noticed this? If you have or get an opportunity to go to cities to get your education, hardly will you go back to the community, because you tend to see things in a different way. You get to expound your thinking. Now, those two ladies, they will never think the same. Why? The exposure between the two. See, the lady who is at the cities, And I know I stand corrected. You can go to the cities and actually become poorer than somebody who is in the interior locations. I understand that. But the point remains to be, if the two ladies are actually exposed to a lack, definitely the one who is in the cities actually has a way bigger exposure compared to the others. So you do not have a control of getting yourself. I know it's a kind of a weird example, but the point is this: if you can get what I'm trying to bring on board is this: if you can actually be able to place yourself in a situation whereby you can at least place yourself to a lucky situation compared to the other one, then that's an amazing. That would be the greatest thing that you can ever do as far as your life is concerned. So you can't control, you can't twist the luck, but you can actually place yourself towards it where it can actually meet you. And also the same case applies too. You have working hard, you have to do the thing. All right, for now, it's a goodbye. But don't forget, you can always pick my number from the description of this specific video. Just have a conversation. But don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe below, and make sure that you comment down below. Tell me what you think. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next one.